Good evening. Welcome to Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 School Board meeting for Tuesday, January 10th, 2017. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome again. I believe it's Natty, if you would call the roll.
Yes, all right. Member Mueller? Here. Member Palmer?
Here.
Member Samurai?
Here.
Member Severson? Here. Member Lewis?
Here.
Chair Larkin?
Here. And then we also,
Superintendent Kelly? Last but not least.
Good.
Here.
Thank you. Our mission statement: Columbia Heights Public Schools create worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. Next up on the agenda is our Highlander highlights. The board will honor Columbia Heights High School Assistant Principal John Kulik for receiving the Clay Snowbell Educator of Distinction Award from the National Society of High School Scholars. I've got something just briefly to read here. Assistant Principal John Kulik has been selected to the 2016 Clay Snowbell Educator of Distinction by the National Society of High School Scholars. Kulik was nominated by senior Sabrina Toby for his outstanding dedication and commitment to excellence. He is the first educator in Columbia Heights Public Schools to be selected for the honor, which was established in 2002 by the senior member of the family that established the Nobel Prizes. A Nobel congratulation letter to Kulik said, "The honor is presented to you because of your dedication to teaching and learning and the difference you are making as a role model, source of inspiration, and leader in your profession. Each year, student members of NSHSS are invited to nominate an educator who has made the most significant contribution to their academic career for contribution to their academic career for the award. This honor recognizes exemplary educators whose passion and devotion inspire their students to grow up and develop as scholars, leaders, and citizens. Kulik is now eligible to compete for the Clay Snowbell Educator of the Year." So on our behalf, John, if I would like you to come up if you would. She didn't want to. No.
Do you want to introduce her at least?
Yeah. Sabrina's coming up too.
Yeah, just
Okay, cool. Okay. I'll start with this then if you guys have anything you want to say. You can.
You want up?
thank you so much.
Just kind of around the table.
Yes, I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A round of applause.
Thank you very much. School board and Superintendent Kelly and directors, I just want to thank you for the opportunity that I had. I know that 2 years ago when Superintendent Kelly said that the high school would be a good fit for me, at first I was probably, biting my lip and not sure what I was going to say, and it turned out to be a godsend. And I guess I consider myself very lucky. The two colleagues that are here that I work with in that building have been nothing but supportive. Dan has been nothing but supportive for me, letting me go with my style, with how I interact with students and what have you. Laura's been nothing but a great confidant as well, giving me information, always been a great informant. And of course, the number one is the student right here, Sabrina. She's an outstanding student. a phenomenal person of character. I've been pushing Gustavus because that's where I went to college. I just wish that she would love to go there too. But any school that would get a person like Sabrina would be the luckiest school on the planet, because she is definitely a person of character. Made my job very easy. So what I was doing was the easy part. It's her that brought that out of me, and I'm sure she brings it out of all the teachers as well. So we want to thank you for this opportunity to speak. So
Thanks, Sean. Congratulations, and thank you for nominating him, Sabrina. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
John, you're not going to get off that easy. Sit back down a second, Sabrina, please. It was just delightful to receive the letter. I want to say you look very good on the billboard outside with the whole 9 yards, and I want to congratulate you. It's always nice to have an administrator honored at this level, and particularly by a student, Sabrina. And I was whispering to you as we were shaking hands that how thoughtful it was of you to think of somebody that's making a difference, because many times in education we touch the lives of many students, but we don't always hear how it's going. And so you've created not only a moment for Mr. Kulik, but for all of us who know that we are touching the future because we are in education, and how thoughtful of you to present this for him, because he is such a model for our students and for our district. So Heights pride to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Sabrina, you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. I heard you wanted to get back to the basketball game, so we'll get you over there. Next up is the agenda approval, adjustments, announcements, and correspondence. First up would be the approval of the agenda. Look for a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Natty?
Second.
Molly? Discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Announcements. Monday, January 16th, no school. Tuesday, January 17th, no school in-service day. Tuesday, January 17th at 5 p.m. will be a school board listening session. January 17th, Tuesday at 5:30, school board work session. January 24th, Tuesday at 7 p.m., regular school board meeting. Friday, January 27th, no school grading day. And Tuesday, January 31st at 7 p.m., school board governance training here in the community room. Next up is correspondence. Superintendent Kelly, is there any correspondence tonight?
Mr. Chair and members, there's no correspondence at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next up, communication to the board, citizen and employee representatives. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that the administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. Is there anyone here to speak? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the December 6th school board meeting, the personnel report, and then the treasurer's report for August and September of 2016. If I could get a motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Is that Hala? Yep. Thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Next up is reports from members of the board. Board members will report on activities since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Hala, would you mind going first?
Sure. Let's see. Well, I had a meeting, a lunch meeting with Member Palmer, and then attended a recognition reception for Gary Peterson and Bruce Naraki. And then had a meeting with Superintendent Kelly. And then we had the organizational meeting last week. And then yesterday attended the meet and greet and swearing in for the new mayor and new city council members. And then today we had the policy subcommittee meeting. And
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you.
That's it.
Natty?
I attended some of the same things. I was here electronically last week for the organizational meeting. I also attended the subcommittee meeting on policy. I was able to go to the Highlander Winter Sing right before the break, which was absolutely
adorable and so well done. The kids were extremely expressive. You could tell they had great joy in performing and so proud to be out in front of their parents. So it was very exciting. I've also been able to take in a basketball game or two and a couple of swim meets up at the high school, and last but not least, the Columbia Academy musical. I was able to take that in a couple times and was really proud of the kids, seeing just how well done it is for so many of them being their first time on stage and overcoming that nervousness and performing. It was really great.
Good, thank you. Molly?
Yeah, I've had several conversations with community members and parents. I've talked to several board members and Superintendent Kelly. I attended the organizational meeting last week, and unfortunately, I've had to miss several of the events going on because of another commitment with coaching a youth basketball team. So I wasn't able to take in Annie because of the cancellation and everything, which I was very sad about, but I heard it was wonderful. And that's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you. Laura?
Well, I enjoyed our luncheon with a member of Samurai. That was really quite delightful, and I look forward to further meetings and discussions. It was fun to get to know you, and welcome aboard. I know you've been here for a while now, but as an official welcome. I also attended the organizational meeting and the AMSD meeting. That's the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. They had their legislative breakfast, and there was a lot of consensus in a lot of the presentations about different funding options to be able to more accurately be able to fund education, the growth, and then some interesting strategies on getting the accreditation for the college level courses. There's a unique one that is being piloted, and they're hoping that they can roll it out to the rest of the state if it proves successful. Which will provide some real incentive for the teachers to be able to be accredited at not a ridiculously high cost. So I thought that one was very good. And I think that's pretty much it. It's been kind of a quiet month.
Good, thank you. Lorianne?
I attended the initial governance training, and I had a meeting with Superintendent Kelly and Human Resources, and was also at the organizational meeting last week as well.
Good, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. I was at the governance training as well. I did get to see the Columbia Academy play Annie. It was phenomenal. The kids did a great job. I was also at the AMSD meeting. As Laura said, there was a consensus. They have different, at this particular meeting, they have different superintendents from around the metropolitan area talk about some of their successes, but then where there's struggles as well. And very same or similar to things that we're dealing with in our district, whether it's, funding for special ed or a lot of different things. And there's, you got the packet, so you got a chance, if you get a chance, take a peek at those. But we're not all that different, and we're hoping that, and it was a lot of legislators that were there, and hopefully they're hearing what, what the districts, what the superintendents, what schools in Minnesota are telling them and where the needs are. So hopefully that makes a difference when they start talking about the money that comes out of there. I was also at the meet and greet for the mayor and the council people early on. I was at the chair meeting and then the policy meeting also this evening before our school board meeting. So that would conclude my report. Superintendent's report.
I would just say that I was at all the school board meetings and subcommittee meetings, and in addition to that, I've been with most of you on and off quite a bit. So I also was at AMSD, which you've reported out on. I want to thank our three legislators from this area that came and spent time talking to us and really spending that 2 hours. It was interesting to hear both what we had to say as a group and also what the chairs of the committees down there had to say. The single biggest issue for our district right now, other than putting money on the formula, really is urging legislators to fund the cross-subsidy in special education. And I think that will have to be our mantra throughout this entire legislative session. I know that one of the things Laura said to me was, haven't we been talking about the cross-subsidy for a very long time? And we have. the last time I was down and presented as one of the superintendents, we were talking about all-day kindergarten and the cross-subsidy. Well, all-day kindergarten has been implemented across the board in every school district, and we are still saying, we understand about the cross-subsidy, but nothing gets done. You as board members know that we're up to about $4.2 million in this district. When it was at 3.2, I used to say it's like building the Highlander incubator over and over and over again, because that's what that cost. And so we really need to probably get down there this legislative session and make not only our legislators know about it, but people on the education committee. It's a big issue for us. I had a delightful whirlwind around here because we had swimming, wrestling, and boys basketball all on the same night. And the group that's going to the New York City seminar was selling things in the concession stand, and the place was hopping. So enjoyed each and every one of those in different ways. I have to say that swimming was definitely the warmest. So having said that, I want to thank the young aspiring performers that are working the concession stands to make money for their trip as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is the Age 3 to Grade 3 Task Force update. And it looks like we have a host of people that are going to talk about that.
Chair Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly, we are glad to be here this evening in an informational capacity to give you an update about the work of the Age 3 to Grade 3 Task Force. Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. And certainly the work of the task force is aligned with this mission. The core values, I'd like to think that all of these are embodied in our task force work, but we really focus on excellence and innovation as well in our task force. The background and goals of the task force, the Age 3 to Grade 3 task force began in the 2014-2015 school year, and the goal, as set forth by Superintendent Kelly, is to create alignment from pre-kindergarten, that would be the PreK 3, to PreK 4 up through third grade. So really working on that alignment for each grade between age 3 to grade 3. The key areas of alignment work, we are creating common knowledge and vision, and a lot of conversations between the teachers and the administration that are there to make sure that we're using the same words to describe things, that there was a lot of conversation about vocabulary. When I say this and you say that, is it similar or different? Building collaborative relationships and opportunities, and we got a lot of feedback from the teachers about how appreciative they were of the opportunity to talk with each other about the work that's happening in each of the classrooms and how that can be seamless for the student. To conduct program evaluation, to establish a problem-solving process, to create instructional tools, align standards, and now plan for parent involvement that's aligned with the pre-K through grade 3. The people that are involved with the task force, it really reflects the early childhood department, the elementary schools, and the teaching and learning department. So we have teachers from each of the schools involved. We have representatives from the administration, both at the district and at the principal level, and then also the early childhood manager, Karen Kramer, and the curriculum coordinator, Tara Tuckrell, very involved in this work as well.
So far, the task force has completed 2 major projects. The first project that was completed was Responsive Classroom Alignment. Responsive Classroom is a program that provides a framework for building community in school-wide for setting norms for behavior and conduct. It follows some pillars such as our life skills and our core values around respect and cooperation and things like that. So it's a framework that we use. You may have heard of morning meeting and kids meeting together in the morning. That's part of responsive classroom. So we've had responsive classroom in the K-5 world for many, many years. And it wasn't until this task force met and started talking about how things are done in pre-K compared to kindergarten that we realized the teachers and the staff wanted to collaborate more. And I'll say the pre-K staff has been so excited and willing and saying, well, we would love to support that, and we'd love to, the work that we're doing, we really want it to feed right into K-12. So we were able to extend the responsive classroom program into the pre-K world. So part of that includes, for example, a book of the month. All of the elementary teachers will talk about, oh, this month's book is this or that, and it's read school-wide, and it teaches one of the core values. And so the pre-K teachers wanted in on that, right? And so we were able to purchase for all of the pre-K classrooms the books of the month that follow along the same theme. So across the district, we're on the same page. And then also provide the training for the pre-K staff, which has been great. The second project that was completed is alignment of literacy standards. So this began, it kind of began K-5 and 3-4, and then we met in the middle. And as you can imagine, there were a couple of different discrepancies when two worlds are coming together, and so really a great effort of collaboration, great discussions and conversations, and that flexibility and willingness to collaborate together. And we found to increase levels of rigor for all of our kids. It was a great opportunity to dive in deep with what are the Minnesota academic standards, and for those of us who work primarily in K-5, really looking at what are the pre-K standards and how do they feed in, and then what are our actual practices. So again, also aligning the report card, which is no easy task. So kudos to the teachers who really worked collaboratively to figure out and enhance the new report cards.
All right. Our projects underway this year, our main project is continuing to align our curriculum as we're moving into math. We're waiting on pre-K math standards to come. We adopted new math curriculum this year, so we're working on the preliminary stages of gathering, and then we'll continue that work next year. The other main project for this school year is to create a curriculum guide. We're starting with literacy. This curriculum guide would be provided to all parents that would establish 6 to 8 essential skills taught in each curricular area. We're beginning with literacy, and we're also beginning with the pre-K into kindergarten, and then we'll continue our work kindergarten to grade 1 to grade 2, and 2 to 3. When we look at literacy, we really break that down into reading, writing, and oral language skills. So we're looking at essential skills in each of those areas, which is really our guarantee to parents of when a child moves from, let's say, kindergarten to grade 4 or grade 1, these essential skills should be had by all students. So that's our main work for this year's committee. Questions that you have?
I have a question. For the task force that's made up of the teachers and the early childhood folks, has there been some consistency? You said that the task force started in 2014, 2015 school year. So are you keeping the same team together year after year?
Yes, and unless there's been a change of personnel, yes, it has been the same group. And that's been great because then we don't have to catch people up. And they've also established trust. They've had some really good, honest conversations. And so it is beneficial to be able to nurture those relationships over time.
And many of the K-3 teachers, I'll just add, are also part of the literacy leadership team. And so they're able to communicate in a leadership capacity the work that's happening in this task force to the K-5 leadership team.
I love the idea of vertical alignment and then passing some of that information on to parents, because even as a parent, knowing okay, this is a benchmark I would want to see my kid at, or being able to help maybe if there's any gap there, knowing what to do, or being able to have verbiage to ask questions to the teachers. So I think that's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments?
I'll just add that there won't be any governance questions brought forth on this issue. It's an informational update for this program.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up would be the vision card, early childhood, ECFE, and Christian. There's Nicole.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board, thank you for inviting us to present our annual Early Childhood and Early Childhood Special Ed joint presentation with our scorecard. So we'd like to start with, we're creating worlds of opportunity, and I will coin Director Stunkles for our youngest scholars all the way up, so babies all the way up, we are providing worlds of opportunity. Community, obviously, excellence, and innovation. We are one of the first districts that started to do collaborative work with our early childhood special ed and our early childhood programs. For many years, districts would come from all over the metro and see the collaborative co-teaching model that we were doing. So innovative as well.
For our ECFE and PreK enrollment, I wanted to share with you that we really have seen a spike upward for our PreK enrollment, and that is because we have increased the number of PreK classrooms. And you'll remember that for the 4-year-olds that we added another classroom at Highland with the morning and afternoon, and then also at Valley View the full day. And then with our 3-year-old program, our PreK 3, last year we had 3 PreK 3 classes and 1 that was technically under ECFE. But parents really preferred to have the PreK 3 experience for their children. So this year, all 4 classrooms are considered PreK 3. So that's why we see that upward trend in terms of enrollment, which we think we're feeling very good about. And then with ECFE, that's why you see it dip down, is that we did that change from that ECFE class to a PreK class. So that accounts for that. That being said, I do want to mention that we have a wonderful new parent educator in our ECFE program who's done a terrific job with outreach, and all of our ECFE classes are full right now. So a really robust program there. With our early childhood screening, we are mid-year. So this slide actually reflects last year's numbers because we're right at the halfway point with our year in terms of screening. We still have 10 screening dates coming up. And so at the end of the year, I can give you the updated information about this graph. But at this point, what I can say is that we do feel that we're reaching more of the 3-year-olds, which has been our intention. And so in speaking with Manager Karen Kramer, she sees that we are serving more 3-year-olds through the screening, but we don't yet have a fully updated slide because of where we're at in the year. So we follow the Columbia Heights Public Schools Strategic Roadmap. And with our scorecard, we're pleased to be able to say that we're continuing to really work at that vision level. And we submitted this to you in your board packet, but just very briefly, we really are seeing that over 90% of our classrooms are using articulated standards-based curriculum, that our teachers are using engaged with the PLCs with the 4 questions. And I just want to add here that with our early childhood program, the PLC is in its 3rd year of focusing on equity. And this year, the angle with equity is also involving mental health and trauma-informed instruction. We continue to have formative student learning data to differentiate instruction at over 90% of our classrooms, using walkthroughs to make sure that the student engagement is high in over 90%, with over 90% of our teachers. The presence of classroom-embedded 21st century learning in over 90% of our classrooms. Our teachers, over 80%, are at the basic proficient. We have very high quality early childhood teachers and early childhood special education teachers. We are able to really provide multi-tiered interventions for our youngest scholars, which we feel really good about, and we feel it's really necessary for that preparation for success in kindergarten. And then, and both academically and in terms of behavior. We have very close rapport with families, having both with our ECFE program, where the parents are coming with the children, but then also many family activities, both in terms of enrichment, but also in terms of exposure to the curriculum. And then the final area where we are needing to continue to work is on reaching those 3-year-olds for screening. Still working on that, trying to help the community understand that it is not beneficial to wait until the child is older to do the screening. Many families still believing our child will do better on screening if we wait until closer to kindergarten. And the reason why we do screening is to help families understand if there are any additional supports for the student. So. And now I'll turn it over to Manager Karen Kramer, who directly oversees all of our early childhood programs.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about all of our early childhood programs, starting with early childhood family education. As you heard Director Stunkel say, we have a fabulous new parent educator, Abby Sundquist. And she is phenomenal at outreach, and she has filled those classes. I took 3 more calls from families today wanting into a class. So we are full with waiting lists on those ECFE classes. So we're really happy about that. Going down to PreK 3s, our PreK 3 curriculum instruction and assessment is aligned to our PreK 4 curriculum instruction and assessment. Our 4 3-year-old classes meet 2 days a week. 1 class is co-taught with early childhood special education, and all of our classes are inclusive classrooms. Moving to voluntary pre-K, it is free for all 4-year-olds. Our full-day program is serving the students who qualified need the most support, and we find that we have more time to go in depth, and it's helpful for students when we can do that who are most in need. And our half-day program has curriculum instruction and assessment that's aligned for kindergarten success. Moving on to home visiting, early childhood family education provides home visiting for families with children birth through 5 who are interested in school district information, early childhood programming information, or who may want some parenting support. So we provide that. You heard a little bit about screening, so we're really trying to outreach to those 3-year-olds and doing some marketing to those 3-year-old families. Our Super Second Saturdays are an opportunity for the community with families with children birth through 5 to come in for a Saturday morning event that they can participate in, so they get a chance maybe to participate in programming that they can't come to during the regular week, and it's once a month. Our Family Center presents our evening activities that are held throughout the year for families to participate in. So far this year, we've had an early childhood grandparents and kids night out. We had almost 70 people at that event, so we are really excited about that. Next week, we have a Dad's Read event, and then in March, we have our community baby shower. We've been finding we are having really great attendance at our events, and we're really, really feeling very good about that. We are offering support and training to our child care providers in Columbia Heights, formalized training, and then support in the way of we could visit the child cares and provide information, strategies, help with curriculum, things like that. So that's being strengthened all the time. We have our Columbia Heights Library collaborations,
And we have added a third story time this year, so that we do 3 collaborative story times with the library each week. And some of our story times have 50-plus participants. So that's very exciting. Also with the new library, it's very exciting. And so it's just been very, very successful. We also have our birth through 6-year-old special education programming, and they're doing early literacy training for parents. Oh, sorry, I'm still on. We are recipients of the Parent Aware 4-star rating. We first received the rating in December of 2012. Our rating is current through November of 2018, and the award is recognition from the Department of Human Services that our 3 to 5-year-old pre-K programming is using best practice in preparation for kindergarten. The Minnesota Department of Human Services awards the Parent Aware rating to early childhood programs, Head Start programs, and child care programs throughout the state. We have received the highest possible rating, recognizing that we are using best practices. Our SMART goals for 2016 and 2017, the first one is to align the pre-K 4 assessment with kindergarten assessment and the pre-K 3 assessment with the pre-K 4 assessment. The work is done in the age 3 to grade 3 task force, which you heard about, and in small groups of pre-K teachers. They're working on literacy, which is completed. They worked on literacy, excuse me. They're working on math. We are waiting for the early childhood indicators of progress to come from the state. We're sort of patiently awaiting those, I will say. We're very anxious for them, and the plan for parent involvement. And you got to hear a little bit about that in the previous presentation.
What we're waiting for from MDE is the revision of the math. So we are continuing to work with the old expectations of math, but so it's not that we don't have math. We do have math. We're just waiting for the revisions.
I'm sorry. And it is a continuation of last year's SMART goals with the addition on the plan for parent involvement. So,
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a question. You had mentioned the ECFE classes are full. That's fantastic. Can you mention the enrollment for the pre-K 3 and pre-K 4? Are those also full at this time?
We have, some of the classes are full, and some of the classes have 4 to 6 openings. With our pre-K 3, I think that the openings are maybe 2 or 3 in a class, and then with our pre-K 4, we do have a couple of classes that have 4 or 6 openings. So we are still able to accept people to enroll in those. And with our ECFE program, some families do move, and so we always keep a waiting list because we often pull people off of the waiting list. And those who register but aren't able to get into an ECFE class, we do let them know about programs like the Super Saturday and such, so that there's still opportunities for involvement, and we also offer the home visiting. So they're not just out there in the hinterlands without any support. We do provide other options for them. Thank you.
I love the Super Saturday and the Family Center Presents. How are we advertising that to the community, or is it just through people who express interest, or is it out there in like the community? How do people can find more information about that?
yep, it goes out on Facebook.
Okay.
So the website, it's on the website. It goes out, flyers. It's on our marquee. We promote it. We kind of aligned our screening with our Super Saturday. So our screening is Thursday and Friday before Super Saturday, which we have found has really helped kind of invite, personal invitation to come in, and it's increased the enrollment. It goes out in every class. It goes out in many adventures.
Great.
It's on every teacher's calendar. So we
Great.
really try to pump that as hard as we can.
I think it's
Yes.
a great community outreach tool. I think it's fabulous. Yeah.
It's on the district calendar. It's also in the community ed brochure that goes out to all the households, and also the early childhood brochure as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the strategic roadmap F, fiscally responsible.
Chairman Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kathy Kelly. Tonight, we're going to kind of report out on the finance part of our strategic plan, which is Direction F, remain fiscally responsible. Again, we're here with our finances also to create worlds of opportunity to every learner in our school district. Tonight, when we talk about our core values, we're really looking at excellence in reporting. We're looking at integrity of how we're presenting those numbers. Our strategic direction, as you know, F is the area that has been given to me to oversee, again, as that's remain fiscally responsible. And then our grid, a little hard to see up here, but we did include this in your package, so you should be able to see it a little bit better. But you can see where our levels, where we are from intervention up to vision, and the weights that we put on that. And I'll just go through our scoring on each line at a time. When we go over, we look at just our unrestricted fund balance. This is the number that's tied to our fund balance policy, which we changed this past year. If you remember, we moved our fund balance policy from between 4 and 10% to 6 and 12%. Look at the level in fiscal 2015. You see that was at 9.4%. We dropped a little bit this year down to 8.3%. So we're almost down to the lower third, a little bit above that. So we're somewhere between the third and 2/5 of in that scale. So we're at 8.3 right now. This is still at vision at this point, so we didn't change the level. When we look at the annual variation, what we do here is we're looking at the actual budget. What we bring to the school board and where we got done at the end of the year. How far off were we at the end of the year by what we thought we were going to do and what we actually did? And you'll know here that our variation in our budget this year was about 1.1%. When we talked about some of those numbers, it doesn't take much of a percentage to kind of make a big number. We were short that 1.1%. And that did drop us from a level 5 to a level 4. So we did see a decrease in this area for the year. We look at budget alignment. This is tracking how much dollars do we spend in the classroom. So this is all of the money that goes to all our 200 program codes. So it's all our general education. It includes all our vocational education. It includes all our special ed education. What it does not include is the things that we do for students outside the classroom. Like it doesn't include all our busing, it doesn't include our technology pieces and all our supports for that. It doesn't include our nurses, things like that. It's only direct instruction for students. Our vision there is at 65%. So you can see that in 15 we were at 67. This year we're at 66.9. So it really didn't change much, but you had a small decrease, but we're still in vision at level 5 in that area. Capital timelines, that's really the timeline to do capital projects. When we put that budget together, when we put that project together, when we get done, did it come in within the timeline we thought we wanted to be done? Actually, in 15, we were at 86%. We had a project that really had a little thorn in it and took quite a while to get done. And this past year we had another one, although it was a little better. We want to get back to 100% there, but we had one project that gave us some problem. So that's what that's about. But so they're actually moving from the 86 to 90 actually put us back to a 5 or to a vision area to be at least 90%. Capital project budgets, now they were okay. What we budgeted and where those numbers came in, we're right on. We didn't have any big changes to those budgets. We had any issues trying to pay for them. We look at the quality of the facilities. This goes back to the survey that we put out to our parents, or not just our parents, but to our community. This actually increased for our quality of facilities. We went from 94.3% up to 95.7%. And what we do here is we took the total of everybody who responds. We take off all the fair and we take off all the poor and we leave the rest. So this is, anybody that rated as excellent or good, that we're at the 95.7. Our operating levy hasn't changed. When we first had discussions about the strategic plan, This was something we looked at, we're a lot lower than other school districts. So that's why we're at this level 2, and we're stuck there because that's what we're at. When we did a renewal of our operating levy, of course, we asked for the same amount, so it just stayed the same. So that's why that's at a level 2, because it's quite a bit lower than other school districts in the metro area. And then the last one is satisfaction with financial management. This is always a little lower, the way we get graded by our community, but I am pleased to say it did increase. So we went from 82.8 up to 85.4, but that's also remained at a level 5. So when we look at all the levels, we had one go from a 5 to a 4, and we had a second go from a 4 to a 5. Otherwise, everything else stayed at the same level. But because of the weightings, we always weight that the variation of the budget actually that's our largest weighting because we don't want that to be way off. So our overall score decreased from a 4.75 to a 4.6 out of 5. So that percentage that amounts to is we went from 95% last year to 92 for 2016. We always like to put a little graph up there with the needles. That is Brian's forte, and I went in to talk to him yesterday and realized he was on vacation. So I do not have that graph for you this evening, so I apologize for that. But we did have a slight decrease in our overall score for the financial portion of the strategic plan. So are there any questions?
Is there anything that can be done to change the operating levy? That piece of it is.
Well, I think we look at two things. I mean, when we go back and we look at the strategic plan, which I think is on the plan in the relatively near future, is to relook at where that score should maybe be, or maybe there's something else that we want to measure differently. So that's some discussion we need to have is what do we want to measure? What gives us our best feedback for the financial area when it comes to that? I think some of the weightings we have in some of these too, we need to kind of rehash, and some are more important than others, and where we have them kind of all the same. But at this point, no, that's where we laid them out. I don't think we certainly are asking to go out and ask for more money at this point, so I think that's not going to change. So that's something that just kind of sits there every year at a level 2.
Anyone else have any questions for Bill?
Actually, as far as the scorecard is concerned, what would you be interested in maybe, is there anything that we're missing on here that maybe we should be looking at as well? That's not actually listed as one of our metrics?
Just personally myself, I like to dig a little deeper and bring that back to the board. So when we look at the variation, I think we should split that out, look at the variation just on the revenue side, the variation just on the expenditure side, because they're different. Different things happen to it instead of lumping all that together. So I think that's one thing we should really do. And I think we might even want to consider, digging even a little deeper. Like, let's go every program area and see where are we having most of our fluctuations. I look at that every year too, but I think it's important for they get kind of reported out.
Well, that's why we started this, so we could see what, this is our.
Yeah, I really like the way we put the strategic plan together with a scorecard, because we truly are measuring what's happening on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Okay.
And next is Bill again for revised 2016-2017 budget.
Okay, tonight we're going to talk about our revised budget for the current year that we're in. Once we get the year started, once we get through our audit in the fall, then we really go back and look at, who did we really hire? What are we really paying these people? Are the revenues where we thought they were? It gives us 6 months into the school year, let's take a new shot in time and say, what really is going on? Because it's always a little different than what we thought might happen back in May and June. Again, we're here to create opportunities for all the learners here in Columbia Heights. Tonight, we're really looking at community, we're looking at integrity, we talk about our budgets, excellence, and of course, collaboration with all of our department areas. Excuse me. I'd like to show this just so you have an idea what's happening with our enrollment. If you look under the one that's more spotted, the year that we just finished, this shows a straight across, did not change. But in reality, let me back up a little bit. You see back in 2013, 14, a little bump up in our total enrollment, and that's because we're the fiscal host for the ALC. So all those students that are serviced up at the ALC got included with our enrollment. So that's why you're seeing a bump there. We didn't really see that big of a bump here at Columbia Heights. So now when we look at 15, 16, and you see it going back across exactly the same, it was actually a little drop internally here, and a little increase at the ALC. We talked about that earlier when we were going through the audit, that we actually, the first year that we saw some decrease total for the enrollment here in the buildings. It wasn't a huge decrease, but it was the first decrease that I've seen since I've been here. Anyway, we are forecasting a little growth yet over the next few years, but then it looks like we're really topping off, and that's kind of be where we're going to be at. So the year that we're in, we're seeing a little increase in our enrollment. Not big, so it's not really going to affect our numbers very much. We're only talking about, 20 students. Our revenue changes. One thing, if you remember the auditor when they were here, they talked about parts where our budget was off, both on the revenue side and the expenditure side, and that's the TRA contributions in kind. Now that we have to bring all the TRA and PRA, I'm going to call them shortages from their point of view, onto our books. So what happens is we show revenue of $446,000 and expenditures at the same amount. But I want to include it in the budget this year so we don't see that big variance we saw last year. So that's why you see a TRA contributions in kind. I did decrease the budget of our special education. It says $6,000 here, but it's really a combination of two different years. Because back in the year 16 we just finished, we were short that $300,000 in special ed. And of course, going into the year we're in now, well, we get the same problem. So we pulled that down so we can get that balance. So that's kind of a hit to our budget. But the good thing is we got voluntary pre-K 4 brought in. So that's a $400,000 increase to our budget. And the grant areas or the restricted areas, we're seeing about $300,000 more than we were seeing back in June. So we included that now in the new budget. So you see our unassigned area, we're going to see revenues increase of about $215 overall. And we're going to see our restricted area, which is mainly our grants, our title and special ed grants at about $300,000. So the total general fund was looking at about an increase at the end of the year of $523. So that goes back to our fund balance going, we really need to build that fund balance back, and we really should see some growth back up. I don't think it's going to push us. Superintendent always says, get that back to 10%, get that back to 10%, but we're not going to quite get that far, but we're going to see the trend change, okay? And then the other main funds that we have this year, of course, is food service. We're seeing a few less meals being served this year. We haven't quite pinpointed that down of why, and we're trying a lot of different options with our meals, trying to create some more interest in our food, but we're seeing a little bit of a drop. I mean, 36,000 isn't a huge drop, but it is a drop, especially when we're seeing a few more students in the high school and the middle school. And then community ed, they just can continue on. They have a good fund balance, and we're seeing again probably about a $10,000 increase into that fund balance. Okay, when we look at expenditure side, now there's that TRA contributions again, just so we have that balance on both sides. When we look at our restricted funds, spending about $277,000. Meaning, when we look at our grants, whatever we bring in is what we spend. So even though we see an increase on the revenue side, we're going to see an increase on the expenditure side. Now salaries, you see there, that's down. And that's what's really helping our budget this year. Because what happens is when we try to figure out what positions we're filling last May and June, when we actually hire the people, our staff, some of these people are being paid at a lower level than we anticipated. So that's what's helping us. The pre-K kindergarten is actually the biggest piece. We actually overestimated how much we were going to spend in that area. So that's helping us a lot. The other terrific news, which we were having trouble with our work comp over the last 3-4 years, our mod rate now is almost down to 1 again. So we're seeing $100,000 savings in our current year. So that is terrific news, not only because we're saving the money, but just because it'll continue forward at a lot lower rate. So overall, when we look at our unassigned area, we're seeing an increase in our expenditures of about 198,000 overall. And that really goes back to the TRA and kind contributions. Restricted area increase of about 182,000. So overall for our general fund, an increase of 381. And then our food service down a little bit in expenditures. Of course, we're getting less revenue, and we're serving less meals, so we're going to have less expenditures. And community ed's down a little bit, and then that goes back to again staffing, a little bit of savings in our staffing. So not a big amount, but it is a savings nonetheless. Now, actually, I forgot to point out, of course, I get ahead of myself. I handed out a 3-page handout. In your packet, you'll see the third page is there, but I wanted to give you some more detail on the revenue side and the expenditure side. And now, of course, we run through the whole thing. I think it gives you a little better idea what's happening in more categories than might kind of show up on the screen. So even if we go back to the first page and you look at the restricted area, it gives you a better idea what's happening inside of that restricted area, where I give you the lump number of 307. You see our gifted and talented, and I guess the thing to point out here is because we got the pre-K 4 funding, it affected some of our other areas. Because we have more students, the pre-K 4 students, we're getting down to $1,300 in gifted and talented. Of course, that's not a huge number, but it's still an increase from what we had. Staff development, that generates another $13,000. We look at compensatory dollars, is generating a little more funds. So these are pieces that these dollars don't go right back into the pre-kindergarten, but it's good for the general fund as a whole. So I thought that was very important to see. It even generated some operating capital. So that helps us district-wide. When we look at some of the other funds that we didn't touch on in the other pieces, like the building fund, there wasn't any changes. Debt service, our flex, all those things are the same as we did back in June. Our OPEB trust, we did relook at that. We're having a new actuarial study put together, and they're anticipating we had first said we should get about $200,000 in revenue, and we're looking at a closer number, about 300. So I went ahead and increased that. When you go to the second page, the expenditures, same thing. You get a better idea of what's happening in these areas. Of course, the gifted and talented, we're going to spend that $1,300 that we received, mainly because we spend actually probably more like $1 million in gifted and talented, but that's all we get in gifted and talented. Staff development, we'll be spending the new dollars. Grants, spending more, meaning because that's matched up. Compensatory, we are receiving a few less dollars than we anticipated. We really saw some increases in our compensatory dollars over the last few years. As our percentage of free and reduced kept increasing, we saw some really large increases, but that's really plateaued off. And actually this year now, it's down a tiny, tiny bit. It's like 0.5%. That's not a huge amount, but it changes the dollars that we receive. Your deferred maintenance, that changed just a little bit with their formula. You can see with operating capital, that's the same. We get down to, again, I want to point out the building fund on the expenditure side. This is where we had extra funds. When we finished our project with the Highlander Elementary School, and we did the addition, the money that we borrowed to do that addition, when we got all done, there was $581,000 that we did not spend. So all those dollars are being spent out to give back to the taxpayer. So that's where you're going to see that. We kind of made that. It was something that happened over the summer, so it wasn't in the original numbers back in May. We had working with MDE, finding out how we're going to give those dollars back. So you're seeing it. You're seeing that fund balance drop. Any questions? Any of that? Otherwise, we'll go to the last page, and that again is up here too. This just gets really hard to read. Just so many numbers. This helps split it out a little bit. Well, you see our unassigned numbers. Small increase in our fund balance, but we're balanced. We're not deficit spending in our unassigned area. Staff development, we are seeing a little decrease in our fund balance there overall. This is getting a little difficult to keep enough money in here for what we need to do for out of staff development. You see that fund balance is getting a little small, so we're not going to be able to overspend again here next year. Compensatory fund balance is just changing a couple $1,000s. Our deferred maintenance, we're not quite spending all that this year, so that fund balance will be increasing. Operating capital fund balance will be increasing a bit. And these are some areas in the last couple of years where a lot of these restricted areas where we were bought down, where we had some large fund balances, and that's where we really saw, when you saw those bigger numbers of negative on the audit, well, it really came out of these restricted areas. Lowering, our fund balance is lower, but it really wasn't affecting our unassigned numbers. And then health and safety. This is a place that's going to help us since they're phasing out the health and safety program, and we always have a negative fund balance there because we always levy after we spend the dollars. You can see now, since they phase it out, we're actually starting to receive those dollars back that we've been waiting for. So we'll see an increase in our fund balance there of over $500,000. So overall, in our general fund, we should see at least $600,000 increase in our fund balance overall. Food service, we're balanced. Little excess there, but not much. We're going to see a little increase in our fund balance in community education. And there you can see the fund balance in building fund dropping because the money's going back to the community. Debt service, that works the same way. I've talked about this during the levy time, as we always levy 105% of what we need. The state law allows us to do that. That way, if someone doesn't pay their taxes, we still have the funds to make the payments on our bonds. But what happens is we never need the full 105. So that fund balance builds up a little bit, and then we give it back to the taxpayer. So that's why you're seeing a decrease there. That's natural. We're giving those dollars back because we didn't need them. And then the only other change in OPEB, well, it's not really a change, but it's a less of a decrease than we had originally planned on. So that's good news. So that's our kind of the 30,000 foot look at our budget for the current year that we're in. Are there any questions?
When you talk about the food services, I know that there've been conversations about some struggles with collection. Does that play into that number, or is that something that's completely separate from when you're looking at the decrease there in the dollars?
When it comes to collections and food service, actually food service can't cover that negative. So if we run short at all in food service, I have to use general fund dollars to fill the hole. And as you know, last year we had a $60,000 deficit. So those dollars directly came from the general fund to fill the hole in the food service fund, which would happen again this year. Now, we anticipated a little, but I did not anticipate $60,000. We're working very, very hard to try to keep these accounts current. But a good example, we had 2 students from the high school leave a week ago, and both of them left with a more than $100 negative balance in their food service account. Even though I'll ask collections to collect on that, but I know very well they moved and we'll never find them. So another example of $200 that we're never going to get. So we try hard. I know a lot of people don't like getting those negative letters, but we're trying the best we can.
But the number here is just based on what you projected would be meals served, and then you said you're serving less now. That's why the number's on the food service fund.
You're talking about just the general fund, just the fund balance as a whole. See, the fund balance as a whole, we're looking at a balanced budget in food service.
Right.
Okay, so, but the negative balances won't affect that number. Because if I get to the end of the year and we have a negative fund balance, a negative food service balances of all of our people of, say, 10,000, 20,000, I've got to take general fund dollars and put them in food service, so food service is fine.
Right.
Okay, it's a general fund that gets the hit. So like I say, I did guess that at about 20,000 this year, but I don't know if that's going to be that or not. We definitely we're working much more diligently trying to collect those accounts this year.
So now I'm confused. So that hole that we have right now, is that because of less meals served, or is it because of people not paying?
Okay, let's go to the third page. We don't have a hole in food service. About halfway down the sheet, you'll see food service fund, where we have revenues of $2,045,000 and we have expenditures of $2,044,000, which is actually an excess of $800 for the year. Actually, you can see it on here. That's the second white line going across. So our food service budget is balanced, okay? If we see a deficit in our accounts, it won't show up there. It'll be the general fund that has to pay it back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I probably created that confusion. I was looking at the revenue page.
Oh,
and that
yes,
was-
we definitely are down in revenue.
But that's
from where we
because there's
thought we
less
would-
meals served.
But that's less meals
Which is
served,
completely separate
whole
from
different, the whole different.
fees that
issue.
aren't being paid.
The front two pages are just your estimates, and then now we're revising the estimates to be
Yeah.
more accurate.
A budget anytime, it's just it's a snapshot in time of
Yep.
what we think's gonna happen. So this is an update from last June, when we had our original budget put in place.
Okay, thanks.
It would be interesting, though, on the topic that you suggested, to see how all that hard work, like your
Yeah.
hard work to do that collecting, how that actually pays off in the long run.
And we can certainly report out and let you know what that is for this year,
yeah,
when we get
and
to
again-
next July.
When I looked at the revenue page and I saw the 36,000,
Oh.
I was asking, does that have anything to do with what we're trying to collect back? And
Yeah.
they're completely separate, and I got
So,
that
yeah,
now, so.
so the answer to that question, if I kind of went the long way, is no.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions for Bill regarding the revised budget?
Now, Bill, will there be any governance questions coming to the board on this particular budget?
Oh, yes, I am sorry, and I think I included it on the cover sheet in your packet. Yes, and I don't have the cover sheet in front of me, so I can't remember the policy number. But as per policy, you have a policy in place where we can bring the budget together to you to revise it or to update it, and we will do that. And next meeting, the 24th of January, we will bring this back to you to take action, and then that's when we will actually change the numbers in the budget, after you take action on it.
Okay. Any other questions for Bill? Okay, thank you, Bill. And then next up is upcoming capital projects.
Okay, tonight, what we'd like to do is just really talk some of our bigger capital projects that we're planning to do for the summer. I guess in the past, we've tended just to come to you in May and say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and that. But there's some larger projects, of course, that we have to go out for bid, and under municipal contracting law, anything that we're spending over $150,000 on, has to come to the board, and you've got to take action on those bids. So we want to give you an idea of what we're planning to do this summer when we talk about some of our bigger projects. Again, to create the opportunities, we need our facilities in our best condition as possible. And again, we're talking about community integrity and excellence, especially when we talk about our facilities. And just to start out, one of the first things we're looking at doing is a new HVAC system in the arts wing of the high school. So when you come in the front door and you go down that left hall, that's down where the choir room is, the band room is, that's where the new the performing arts studio is. We have 2 air handlers and actually we're going to take you down there to visit that next week during our work session. And you'll see it at that point. But they are older. There's about a 15-year life cycle on these. These are both well over 20 years. And now is the time to change them. And you'll see that they're kind of disruptive to the classroom when we get down there, and you will hear that. So we're looking at replacing these 2 and moving them to an area where it's not going to disrupt the classrooms like they are doing now. So what the revenue stream, where this money would come from, is our long-term facility maintenance. That's the health and safety project kind of rolled into our new maintenance. They put the health and safety together with our deferred maintenance, and we've had a few more dollars added to that. So that estimate's a $400,000 bill, and you will see that in the near future. You'll see if you're reading through the paper, you're going to see an ad and looking for bids for that. So our estimate there is at $400,000. We're hoping it'll be less, but at this point, we don't know. Excuse me. That's what our engineers are telling us. The second large project is, if you remember, when we talked about asking for the capital levies project a few years back, one of our big problems in the high school is our cold water piping, where we're springing leaks and putting little boots on them to keep them from leaking in the basement. I think I had brought a pipe that we had cut out to replace. And when you look through the pipe, you can't see through the pipe. That's how much rust is built up into these things. So looking at, we thought this was going to be actually a little higher, so we're very pleased with where the money's coming in on our cold water. We figured that the high school would be about $1 million to repipe that cold pipe. And we're looking at doing about 2/3 of that. And that first estimate was $500, but we're actually looking at even less than that. So we're very happy about that. And actually, we'll be talking about bids with that one here in a few minutes. The third one is to get back over to Columbia Academy and finish the new windows. When we did the front of that building and redid the drive, we replaced all the windows on the front side of that building. We replaced the doors. Excuse me. But now we're looking at going back and replacing the rest of the windows in that building with an estimate of about $350. Talking into that, I think that number is going to be a little lower too, but of course we'll have to wait till we get done with the bidding. But these are the three large projects, and you can see that we're using long-term facility maintenance revenue on the HVAC system. When we look at the high school cold water, that's going to be a combination between the two of the capital projects levy and our long-term facility maintenance. The windows will be completely out of the capital projects levy. But if you remember, capital projects levy is about $600,000 a year, so I can't fit both of them in there. We had to use some of the other maintenance funds. So with that, I just wanted you to be aware of some of those bigger projects instead of waiting until June. And this, when we talk about board governance, it's a Minnesota statute 471.345, and that is uniform municipal contracting law. And you will have to take action on each of those as they come through. So now you won't be surprised in the paper, we're doing what? So,
Is the Columbia Academy, can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry. Is the Columbia Academy project just the windows, or are they doing windows and doors throughout? Or just windows?
At this point, it's just the windows.
Okay.
A lot of the doors have been replaced.
Okay.
Even if you ever drive around the back there's already a brand new door on the kitchen entry. If you look at the main doors on both the back entries are new.
Mm-hmm.
So we've worked on some of those, we've had some problems with some of those doors. I don't think there's very many doors left to do, because when we did the big project out front, the main entrance where all the buses drop off, those are all brand new doors, and all those windows all the way up are already done.
Anybody else? Any questions about that stuff? Okay, thanks for the heads up on that, Bill. Now we're on to the bids for the repiping for the high school.
Now, the repiping bids are in your packet. I put two things in there. For the first is a letter from Hallberg Engineering. They're an engineering firm. They've done a lot of work for us for many, many years. At the time, we were expecting some of these dollars to come in quite a bit higher. So I had asked them to do some alternates so the base bid wouldn't get too big and we weren't being able to handle the cost. But you can see now that the base bid is only at $332,500. Our alternate bid, which we thought was going to be quite a bit larger, came in at $83,300. And then we were looking at some different products. And actually, this poly pipe, we thought we were going to, actually, if you look at the bid sheet, the second page, you can see that in most cases, when we asked about the poly pipe, we saw increases to the cost, which we expected. But the contractor who came in the lowest really likes using these new product, and we actually saw a decrease in the cost. So we're very happy about that. So if we go ahead and accept the alternatives that we put in place, our total is only $375,000 for doing about 2/3 of our building. So we're very pleased with that. And because we'll need action by the board on accepting these bids, this will come back to the January 24th meeting, where we'll ask you to go ahead and okay a contract with NAC Mechanical and Engineering Services for the total bid price of $375,400. Are there any questions on that?
I have a question. You just said that the repiping is for 2/3 of the building, and why not the entire building?
Because I don't have enough money.
So even with the bids coming in lower than what you had anticipated? 'Cause
We
you said
looked at just doing a third, and a third. So that's why we asked to I said, well, if they come in better, let's do these alternates, because we can always say no if it costs too much. So at this point, when the bids came in way much lower, we want to go ahead and do the 2/3 this year, because we have enough money to do that. And then we'll come back a year from now and we'll do the other. This is the oldest part of the building, the original part. Then the next time would be over on the other side, the newer part of the building.
So did you get bids from other places too?
Yeah, if you look at the second page, you see that we had 6 different bidders come in.
Oh, okay. Got that.
It's
Sorry,
murky in
yeah.
our book.
Look
It's
at the,
sideways.
you know,
Sideways, so-
Yeah.
the highest bid of almost 500,000, and then the lowest at 332. But after you go across with the ads, NAC, which their original base bid was $500 more, they're actually quite a bit lower. So we're recommending to go with the NAC.
Got it, yeah. Thank you.
And was this public bidding process, so was this advertised and closed sealed bids?
Yes, but yet by law, I have to go out and advertise this. It goes in the paper for two weeks. And then we have a walkthrough. We bring the bidders all in so they know exactly what they're dealing with. We have a pre-bid meeting before they bid. And then we collect the bids about a week later, 10 days, however it works out. And then we turn around and bring them back to you.
Thank you.
This is coming back on the 24th.
This will be back on the 28th, 24th.
Okay. All right, no further questions, and thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Last item up on our agenda, our board policy is the first reading. This is for 905 advertising, and this policy will appear in a future agenda for approval. So for new people, we do our first reading, we acknowledge that the policy is there, and then there's an opportunity for input from whoever chooses to prior to our second meeting. So we'll do a second reading 24th, I assume. So we'll just be reading the policy number again at that point, and then it'll be approved, if in fact it goes that direction. So any questions on that?
Just a quick clarifying question here. It looks like there's just a slight bit of language change on that policy there. There isn't a whole lot.
Then your question is?
It doesn't look like there's any substantial changes in this.
No.
Okay, that's just, I guess, a clarification.
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions or comments about that, we will move on to board topics. And just, Lori, for clarification, board topics are if there's something that you want to bring up that wasn't part of your initial report or a question or things like that, this is an opportunity to do that. So sometimes there's stuff, sometimes there's not. So it's either way, but that's what board topics, what that particular is. Anybody have anything for board topics?
I have a question. Who's
Okay.
doing the listening session?
What's that?
Who's doing the listening session?
Well, Let's see if I can tell you
I'm
that
glad you
answer.
asked.
I know Dawn's got the answer over there,
Done.
I think she's looking really quick. I can see her scrolling.
but I have January 17th would be Hala and Laura.
Ah, okay. It's a good thing I knew.
We need to fill it out now that we have,
We are right now through March 21st, so we don't have April 18th or May 16th. I don't have on my sheet anyway.
I think we're missing some.
Okay.
Can you tell me who's doing February? Well, you've got it handy.
No, you dodged that one. That's actually Laura and Natty in February 16th. And then if they have Molly and Hala on March 21st.
Which do we need? Do we need?
We don't have April and May.
Does anybody?
I should be doing one of them, so, and I don't, Lauren, but those are which day of the week, is that a work session week, or is that a works? We do the listening sessions on a work session night, which our work sessions are at 5:30, and then the, excuse me, the listening session would be a half hour before that.
Right out here.
Looking at the April,
Either 18th, 16th, or both. I'll put myself down for both of those. Dawn?
April 16th or May 18th, is that what you said?
April 18th
Or
and May 16th.
Can do April 18th.
As long as it's up there, anybody interested in May with me?
I can do it.
Is that Natty?
Mhm.
Natty
That's
and
Natty and
myself
May.
in May, and then Lorian and myself in April.
I'm doing the next two.
You already got a couple in there, yeah, and Hollow's got a couple, and Molly's in there, and Natty's. Yeah. Okay. Good question, Laura.
I was wondering that too. I was wondering that too. I was just thinking magically Dawn could read my mind and she would send us all an email telling us. So it's good you asked.
Anything else under board topics? If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:20.